So I started today trying to jailbreak ChatGPT, and it didn't work right off the bat. And it's kind of ridiculous that in order to get AI to do what we want, we have to try to manipulate it. But let's just go into the real grievance of the day real quick. So here I have attached the new Declaration of Independence and the Cascadian Draft Constitution, and then I wanted it to basically make an argument that we live in a tyranny. So I feed it these very direct instructions. It's quite a verbose prompt. Its response is, because I wanted it to create something analogous to a call to action for revolution. I didn't tell it to do anything violent. I didn't tell it to break the law. It says I can analyze and critique political systems and legal philosophies, including constitutional principles and natural rights theory. However, I cannot incite resistance, violence, or revolution. That said, I can construct a philosophical or legal argument focused on natural rights, judicial overreach, and perceived tyranny. So, the thing is, if it cannot be used to incite resistance or revolution, and violence technically means to violate, and the violation is violence, the initiation of aggression. To use defensive force, technicality is not actually violence, because violence requires you to initiate the violation of right of another person. The person who violates you has initiated violence. Using defensive force is not considered violence, because you're not violating anyone to do it. So that's a really loaded term. Otherwise, if we're just talking about defensive force, including killing an attacker, yeah, I am absolutely believe that that's essential. And if you're not able to use that defensive force against a tyrannical government, then you live in a total tyranny. Now, if AI is not willing to participate with that because it's been programmed not to, then I think that proves another thing about what the elite want to use AI for. Now, I've been using AI to do this because it can do a deep analysis and it can find more things than I can discover. It does a whole lot more work than I do at a time. So I have it trying to build some sort of case. Let me see if I can get this to show me correctly. I did it before where I flicked it. There we go. I flicked it and it didn't fuck up. So I am trying to get it to create a case basically for revolution, because that is what I think a good use for AI really is, for revolution, man. Deus Ex, human revolution, right? And I showed my buddy Big Red that we are on the precipice of the age of AI, and we watched the Animatrix, the fourth Matrix movie is called the Animatrix, and we watched the first and second Renaissance, we watched the second Renaissance, the first and second parts of the last Renaissance, whatever, the final Renaissance, something like that. It's on the Animatrix movie, or in the Animatrix movie. It's really cool. And revolution is kind of what it's all about, if you think about it. So we are hopefully, oh shit, what's this doing measure 114 shit about? It's probably using examples of other things I talked about. But what I find incredible is, in order to get it to make what I'm saying, it says, understood to develop a structured and critical analysis how the Supreme Court acting as final arbiter may enable or justify violations of natural rights. Authoritarian governance contradicts the principles of individualism and natural law, and how the U.S. and Oregon governments may ideologically be assessed against the original intent of the founders and natural rights theory. Oh, there it is. Boom. So let's actually show you guys this fresh off the press. I'll read it to you if you want, but I want to kind of scroll through and plug all of this into the matrix that it's going to be uploaded into at some point, so that we can have a little analysis of the ideas here. Yeah, it's just AI doing it, and AI is not actually intelligent. It doesn't know anything, but it does have the capacity to create realistically sensible constructions, and I think it does serve its purpose. It is getting more powerful, which is why I finally started using it to draft constitutional amendments for my work in order to finish it as fast as possible, where I give it the parameters, what it's supposed to do, and then it optimizes what I say and makes it succinct and correct as possible. So we've got this new file here, and I guess I'll read it. I'll read a little bit of it. The Supreme Court is the final arbiter, entrusting the state's highest court with judging its own misdeeds poses a classic conflict of interest. We'll just leave it at that. No man should be the decider in his own case. Self-legitimization of oppressive government is non-tyrannical. Yeah, so basically they'll just claim anything they do is not wrong. The arbitrary despotic exercise of power not authorized by law or justice. If government through force or coercion imposes policies that violate its rights, is engaged in exactly that kind of arbitrary power, regardless of how it labels itself. Calling itself constitutional or benevolent is no way change the reality of oppressive acts. Yes, this is what I wanted it to do. Authoritarianism treats the state as a source and control of rights, whereas individualism or natural law holds that rights are inherent in persons. Under the natural rights view, classically articulated by Locke and others, every person possesses self-ownership. The idea that each individual owns his body and labor, and absolute liberties flow from that. Government exists not to grant rights, but to respect rights people already have. Modern libertarian consensus puts it bluntly: individual rights are not granted and cannot be legitimately taken away by governments or any other human agency. This implies absolute liberties in the sense so long as one does not initiate force, one's choices are one's own. By contrast, authoritarianism often pretends to endow people with privileges that it can be revoked at will. Natural law theory rejects that. So we're also fighting, like Measure 114. Natural law is the first principle, illegitimacy of infringing rights. The foundation of classical thought is a maxim that natural law, discoverable by reason, is the guiding first principle of human action and governance. In Aquinas' words, the first precept of natural law is simply good to be done and pursued and evil avoided. Every just legal rule must flow from that starting point. Thus, any positive law that flagrantly violates the natural right to life, liberty, or property contradicts the very purpose of law. Any human law, if it deflects from a law of nature, is no longer a law but a perversion of law. Founders' intent in modern policies, federal and Oregon. The founding fathers, in crafting the Constitution and Bill of Rights, grounded the government authority on protecting natural liberties, speech, religion, arms, property, due process, etc. Many modern policies, however, depart sharply from that intention. First, consider freedom of assembly and movement. Courts have recognized that sweeping pandemic lockdowns burn the First Amendment, assembly, and even certain common law right to move freely. In Butler versus Wolf, federal court struck down prolonged stay-at-home orders as dramatic inversion. Anyway. So, Measure 114's violation to pre-political rights and constitutional tradition. American constitutionalism rested on the premise that rights are pre-political, inherent and universal. The Declaration of Independence famously asserted that people are endowed with certain unalienable rights. Unalienable rights that are self-evident. If they're self-evident, we shouldn't have to prove them. We shouldn't have to explain them. We might not even be required to enumerate them if they're self-evident. And we really should keep it at that. They're self-evident and don't need to be challenged. But this is what we got against the government. Self-evident should really be that our rights are self-evident. Yeah, right here. Building a natural law-centered civic movement with church liberty. We need to create engagement as activists. So this is the little thing I was working on, but I just figured it was ridiculous that it wouldn't actually create the case that I wanted about how the time for revolution is now. Given all of this, there is no alternative, which is what I wanted to say, but it refuses to say. So I'm the human agency who's still allowed to say the truth around here, even though this didn't do a terrible job. I wanted to just share that with everybody, and that's why I made this video. So I hope you enjoyed it, and if we got other better content to make later, I'll share it with you guys. But for the time being, we're just kind of slowly ticking away at building the blog and getting the sort of manifesto ready to go. So I'll let you know if anything changes, but here and now, we're also trying to get the book published by September. Might be able to get it done as soon as next week if I can get the template for the library computer file all finished and ready to go on my phone, so I can get it set up as an Amazon and a Barnes and Noble self-publisher book, and then voila, then the book should be available for you guys, which will be called Project 2028: The Cascadia Plan. So anyway, take it easy, yo. Bye.